Be sure to subscribe and like our channel. We're live and we're recording from a forest. Now we got it.
All right.
So, usually we broadcast from Toronto at our store, 607 Gerrard Street East. Today, however, we're in a park at Hamilton Pagan Pride. I'm here with my co-host, Zachary Louie.
Woo. Get on the panel, dude. What are you doing here?
What do you mean? What, are you kicking me out of the
kicking you
co-host?
off.
Oh, okay.
Get on. You're an author.
Okay, well, I guess I'm not the co-host today. Zach is going solo.
I am going solo today. So we have a great panel today on the topic how to escape spiritual escapism. Tongue twister for the morning. So first off, everyone knows Andrea. However, I'm going to give him a bow because he is the author. So Andrea is the author of Hands-on Chaos Magic. And with that, he is a Hugon. He is co-owner of Queen City Curio, co-host of Deeper Down the Rabbit Hole.
But not today.
And with that, he has done workshops across the world. And he is specifically focused on business and the occult. So welcome to the panel, sir.
Thank you.
Next, we have right beside him, Yvonne Abaro. Sorry. So she is the author of All Acts of Love and Pleasure, inclusive Wicca, Dark Mirror, The Inner Work in Witchcraft, The Night Journey, Witchcraft as Transformation, and is a practicing Gardnerian Wiccan of 31 years. Welcome to the panel.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have beside her, Erica Clark. She is a Sagittarius Sun, Libra Moon, Scorpio Rising, whose longtime love of magic divination and spreadsheets. Fuck yeah.
Woo, so sexy.
It is. It really is. Spreadsheets are awesome. Business side. She does a study of astrology, and that's just a match made in heaven. So she offers birth charts interpretations and custom birth charts themes, jewelry, and Chart Babe at Instagram or her website, birthchartbabe.com. So welcome to the panel.
Thank you.
And then beside her, we have Sahu. And
Yeah, you can call me Christine
all right.
for today. It's
Sure.
easier.
Or Christine Ford is a high priestess of the Temple of Witchcraft, having apprenticed for many years, acclaimed witch and author. And she's worked with Christopher Penzick in the Temple's Mystery School, a longtime student of the Esoteric School. Through the In Spirit Center, Christine currently offers psychic readings using her own divination system, mediumship readings and full moon gatherings, personal mentorship, and numerous metaphysical workshops. So welcome.
Thank you. That was a mouthful.
And then we have Andre, who is part of Silver Circle and is a high priest.
I am a high priest, yes.
Right. So we have our panel. So with that, has everyone got their coffee this morning? I got a drink because it's going to be some hard questions today.
Nope.
Coffee?
No coffee for me.
No coffee.
I have my water.
I didn't.
So everyone's coming from a lot of different perspectives. How are you using your own practices to actually move your life forward? So I'm going to go one by one across the panel, and we'll go from that point. So Andrea, let's have you start off.
Well, from chaos magic, it's probably one of the hardest general things. You either get results or you don't. And if you don't get results, you just assume that the techniques or the beliefs are just ill-adapted or not suited. So in every single working that I'm doing, I'm trying to get actual real changes. Even with mystic changes, I'm trying to measure through spreadsheets these statistics of how many people are actually seeing my behavior change and doing stuff like 360 feedback to actually see if I do a ritual, my behavior should change. If it hasn't changed, I haven't changed part of myself. If I'm doing a ritual for external things, I should see the external things. Otherwise, that's not successful. So that's a hard metric to kind of make sure that I'm not just wishfully thinking. Even further, if I contact a god or a goddess, I should be different. Like something about little things should be different from a real spiritual context. So in every single time I'm recording sort of a continuous 360 feedback to see that I am not wishful thinking about the kind of results that I'm making to myself or the external results that I'm actually getting of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah. Wow.
So let's have you continue along the train.
Okay. Well, nowhere near as organized as that. We do keep a diary of each of our cover meetings, and we record any invocations that have been done and who was there and what spells we did, and try to keep track of how we did. So we do healing, we do political magic from time to time, and we also engage in political activism. So and I very much see my political activism as being powered by my spirituality, in that I'm very active for LGBTQ2SIA inclusion in the craft. I see that as part and parcel of my spirituality.
All right. Erica.
I'm impressed with your spreadsheets for your magical results. I mostly use spreadsheets to plan travel.
Oh, nice. Yeah. It's kind of funny because you actually, one of the things I tell people is like, yes, we can't quite get the results from magic that is physics based, but we can match social science like criteria on a regular basis of results. So we can't quite prove it to a hard physicist that,
Right.
hey, magic is real.
Yeah.
But a social scientist could look at my spreadsheets and say, well, this is past one standard deviation, right? Like, that's good enough for
impressive.
your paper. Why is it not good enough for my paper, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's impressive. As for me, I find the question difficult because I think it's hard to determine what exactly moving your life forward means, right? Because that's so different to everybody. For me, I think right now, and I'm sure if you ask me in 6 months, my answer will be different. Maybe even by the time the podcast airs, I might change my mind. But I think living my life from a place of integration is sort of what I'm working towards in terms of moving my life forward. So by that, I mean like having sort of my spiritual life and my social life and my work life and everything. Like, it's not going to all completely go together, but just living my life, I guess, in such a way that it doesn't seem completely fractured. It doesn't seem like I'm 7 different people trying to share this one body. Which I have felt like that in the past. So I'm trying to live in such a way that it all feels like me, or some version of me, no matter what I'm doing. So that can be things like doing meditation or spell work, or aligning myself with full and new moons, and then bringing that into the practical.
Mm-hmm.
So we just entered Virgo season a little while ago, and that is every year my cue to like get yourself together. You've just had fun in the summer. Leo season was great. You got your party on, but now it's like, it's going to be back to school time. It's going to be back to work. You haven't cleaned your house in a while. Maybe you want to get on that. Get yourself in order. So sometimes I like to add little magical things to my chores. You can add herbs and essential oils and everything to your mop bucket, and you're washing the floor, but you're also casting a spell at the same time. You can even if you're trying to clear the negative energy, maybe you mop or sweep, widdershins or what have you. Loads of different examples on I could go on about magical chores all day, but that would be a very boring podcast.
It could be an awesome podcast, actually.
Hit me up for that one next time. But I guess, just I'm trying to live my life in such a way where it all kind of works together. It all comes together.
Right. So gelling it together.
Yeah, gelling.
Right.
Excellent. Yeah. I like me. Yeah. Well, I really like what you said about integration, because I feel like that's a huge process that I'm going through too. So when I started into the craft, so
I kind of self-studied about, Wicca, paganism, a little bit of witchcraft, and trying to figure out where I needed to be. And I felt like I needed to be more accountable. So that's why I ended up joining a mystery school and apprenticing with Christopher Penzak, because he had a very structured way of laying things out that were helpful. Because for me, and I don't know if a lot of other people can relate to this, but I began this path which came out of a period in my life when everything kind of went spectacularly wrong. And I desperately needed to heal. And I'm just mentioning it because that seems to be a trend for a lot of people. And it's too bad that I chose witchcraft as a last resort, because I was brought up in a very traditional Catholic household, didn't consider it as an option, but really could have been my first choice because it's really well suited to me. So moving my path forward was all about healing, and it still is for me personally, and integrating. I love what you said about even magical technique, because the tradition that I have it's really a lot about magical technique and how you can transform your life and really kind of enter in those mysteries and start to figure out how to really manifest changes. And now I kind of think it like inhaling, and now I'm in a process of exhaling, where I'm trying to bring some of that to the community and to be of service. And that's what I'm hoping to do through the High Priesthood with the Temple of Witchcraft, is to eventually be able to teach the tradition someday and be able to offer to others what was offered to me, and for those who feel like that would be helpful. So that's it in a nutshell.
Right.
Yeah.
I really love what you said. For me, my craft is more at being in balance with the world around me. So normally in my life, I'm pretty happy. So, everything's going well. It's when you come out of balance with the world around you that I find that my craft comes into play. So if there's an illness of myself or somebody around me, that's going to knock me off of balance. So I'll use my craft to restore that balance, to try to either help me understand or come to terms with the illness, or to help heal or nurse the person back to health. And it could be anything like that. When I first entered the craft, my life was a complete mess. And I think that's so often when we find somebody coming into the craft, their lives can be that way.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't change what you were doing and look for something new to fundamentally change your life if your life wasn't a little messed up anyway. So that's why so often when we find new searchers, people just coming into this, you have to be a little patient with them, because if everything was great, they wouldn't be knocking on your door. They wouldn't be coming to you. And so that's why you go through the same process that when you were taught, nice and slow, giving the information a little bit as they can take it and as they can then develop it into their lives and find their own balance.
Right.
It's not about me telling them how they have to live their lives.
Yeah.
It's about them
So true.
discovering the road.
Yeah. Definitely.
So there's a lot of I've heard everyone's generally talking about some trackability on things, working within whether it be seasons or having some time marker on how you're progressing. So then how are you all, or have you recommended to people, particularly with things like, when things hit hard, right? Because it's easy just to say, well, walk away, or just completely just spiritual bypass and not even look at the problems, right?
Yes.
So what are some tools, or what are some suggestions you've used for yourself, or you've helped other people with? So again, we're going to go down the panel path.
So you think to avoid spiritual bypassing, tools to avoid that, getting into that
tools
situation?
to avoid that whole situation, because things are ugly when you're doing self-development work or progression work in any sort.
Right.
So
Okay.
So I definitely think that the first thing I'll tell people is that kind of goes with the Buddhist, some of the Buddhist philosophies, that whenever you change anything, there's going to be pain. Whenever you do rituals, there's going to be pain. You have to be kind of okay with some discomfort, and then teach them tools to manage the cognitive kind of negatives of that pain, and such as meditation and straight meditation, or clearing and getting rid of that. But you cannot deny it, because once you deny the pain and you just say, well, it's all going okay, the obstacle is the path, or the obstacles are the path in a lot of cases. So it's further embracing the obstacles as not necessarily the end of the world or the most severe thing that could happen. Embracing the obstacles as the message, not the message, but the information from the universe to say, here's what you should work on. Like to accept that, not necessarily accept the obstacle, but accept that it's there. Because if you're going to bypass that and just feel good with meditation, which you can do happy meditations, thus not really getting to the core obstacle. It's not embracing that uncomfortable zone where you might have to confront parts of yourself that you don't want to, but you have to if you want to make any growth or if you want to have things truly change. Mm-hmm. And so everything I try to do when someone comes to me about that is try to first make sure they have tools to actually kind of clear themselves immediately and be able to look at that and something painful and say, hey, this sucks, right? Because that's the first thing. This sucks. I don't like this. Because if you say, this is great and my meditation, I'm always happy, you won't do anything about it. But if you just own the fact, yep, this kind of sucks, I would like this to be different, then I can sit down and say, great, now we can work on that. Let's work on making that better. Let's make the changes you want to make. So I try to be like sort of bluntly, make people be bluntly honest with themselves, even though it's not comfortable at all. When I'm coaching them to say, hey, no, you know this is an obstacle. This is really a problem. Because if they don't do that, and they kind of deny the obstacle itself or the pain that the obstacle causes, there's no way to get past it. It'll just sit there in the subconscious mind and kind of fester and mess with them and kind of wreck things. And we all know people who've kind of wrecked their lives this way. Yeah. Deny the obstacle, deny the pain, and what happens, it manifests in other ways where their life kind of falls apart. Right? So the first thing is a lot of coaching sessions that say, no, come on, we know the real problem. It may not be that spirits are attacking you, right? This is just an example. It's probably that you and your boyfriend are having real problems. Maybe it's abusive or something like that. Yeah. It's easier to say spirits are attacking me, but it's really hard to say, hey, we'll use Joe because Joe's not on the panel. Hey, Joe, this situation with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, it's just not working. You've got to be honest about that and the pain it's causing. Or you may be in a job that's terrible. And again, it's like, Joe, we got to admit, this job is not good. You're working 60 hours. You're burnt out. You deny this and you're going to have health issues later, right? Like, so we have to accept the fact, okay, that sucks, but that's the path is that obstacle. As in, so I try to get them to a point that they're okay with that discomfort and then use it.
See, and I look at it from that point of view, because there's two different ways to sort of look at it. That's like the crisis mode, the problem, the shadow work, the looking inside and like tearing yourself apart and building yourself back better, stronger, and faster than you were before. Like that's how we improve ourselves. And then there's the other aspect of craft training that is like just getting to know your gods, getting to know the elements, getting to work with those spirits on a regular basis. And both can be very off-putting to somebody during their training. Like if you're going to go and decide that you're going to develop your relationship with the elements, for example, we do a lot of elemental work. So let's say you decide, okay, I'm going to spend the next few months getting to know the element of fire. You're going to fill your whole life up with fire. You're going to be argumentative to people that you talk to. You're going to like just constantly be challenging everything around you because that is the essence of that element. And you have to accept that you're going to fall out of balance. All craft work is going to knock you out of balance. Often I will talk to people and I'll say, okay, don't start this work unless you are in a fundamentally stable enough place that you can make it through like, a year or so of looking at the self-development, of ripping yourself apart if you're going to do like shadow type work versus like just craft work, because it is different. There's I'm going to tear myself apart and improve my life and be really, really, really honest with myself. And then there's the, I just want to get to know my gods and my elements and build my skills.
I think
Yes.
that's particular to the Wiccan path. For a chaos magician, we wouldn't make a difference. It's all about the results. that
Really?
we
You
get.
don't think like you guys would do like work with like, you know,
Some
Shango
people-
or something like that, and maybe develop like a strong,
Oh, we would do that, but I mean,
and
ultimately,
spend a few months doing it?
we would, but I mean, not in the formal way that's necessarily being talked about, like with the elements and that.
Okay.
Some
Interesting,
people
good.
would choose to do that, but the results almost always look the same as shadow work to me. Like
Oh,
people
okay.
almost always have life crises immediately.
Almost always.
Right. Like, okay, I'm going to invoke this new spirit. I'm going to do it every day for 30 days.
How's that going to work?
Oh, that
On
And-
top.
And we actually ran this for many years where we were like, okay, get to know the spirit or the element.
Yeah.
And inevitably, it's the same as if you're going and picking one of your shadow issues and your life has crises upon that point.
I think that when you do that and you deal with deities, you finally get the thing that they've been trying to get your attention and smack you on the back of the head for
Yep.
the last 12 years to get you the answer. And when you start listening, guess what? You have homework.
Yeah, I have a story. It relates. I mean, I did the lesser vanishing ritual of the pentagram for like 6 months.
Yep.
Nearly every day, and it was like having my psyche scraped out with a rusty teaspoon. But you know, I like to talk about, when I talk about spiritual bypassing, I like to talk about the way our culture expects us to deal with anger, because especially for women, we're expected to kind of just go, oh yeah, I'm just going to be nice, you know, and you have to shove the anger down the back of the couch. Now, the problem with shoving your anger down the back of the couch is
Burns you inside.
yes, it burns you inside, and actually depression is
Yes.
repressed anger.
Oh my gosh,
So,
that's so eye-opening.
Yeah, I mean, I like to tell people, you know, it's okay to express anger. You know, obviously you don't want to dwell on it and live in the anger, but you do want to get it out and express it, because anger is your psyche's way of telling you that someone is trying to dump on you, right? It is your body's natural fight or flight response to somebody treating you badly. So, you know, there are these various other spiritual paths, which I shall not mention, that go, oh no, you mustn't be angry. That's really aggressive. And I'm like, no, I'm going to be angry. I'm angry because I'm being treated badly or somebody else is being oppressed. And that's got to stop.
Because it's an appropriate reaction.
It's an appropriate reaction,
Well,
and it's a natural reaction.
It's a natural reaction, and it just
Yeah.
reminds me American Gods, where I forget, it was a spider god. I can't remember the name.
Anansi.
Anansi. Anger gets shit done.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, this is the problem. This is the problem too. Like, I totally agree with the demonization of anger, because anger, yes, if you go out and pick fights in a bar, that's bad anger.
Yeah, but that's like
Yeah,
Right.
that's aggression. But if you're angry about something and then you use that as fuel to change things,
Yeah.
that's like the perfect martial like use of anger. Like,
Yeah.
that's the
Like people
planetary Mars perfect. Like,
Yeah.
I like to
People
think
are
of it as I
always,
keep this little angry creature in myself, and it says, in case of war, break glass.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, like, you know, people are always having to go at tone policing people of color for calling out racism, or tone policing LGBT people for calling out homophobia or transphobia, and going, oh no, you can tell us, but like, you mustn't be angry. No, it's a justifiable anger. Come on.
I think it's what you do with it and how you express it that makes it, you know, either constructive for your life or
Yeah, or not.
destructive,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, are you going to use that anger to protest, engage in some other form of political activism, as
Yeah.
you do a lot of, to try to make the world a better place? Or are you going to use that anger to like push people away and just become like a really nasty person that no one wants to be around, and then kind of sabotage your own life because the people
Yeah.
that might have been trying to help you now don't like you? You know, you gotta figure out how to use your
Yeah, absolutely.
anger there.
You're right. There's less socially acceptable choices for expressing anger than there are for most other emotions. So you're right. But that's a lot of energy. And I really dig what you're saying, because if we could actually channel all that anger into something productive into our magic. That's, I don't know, it's kind of exciting over here.
Make it
Yeah.
useful.
I like what you're saying.
Make
Yeah,
it
you
helpful.
can fuse it to fuel
Yeah.
your energy
Well,
for change.
if you're not passionate about your magic, like whether it's angry or those
Or
other
whatever.
passions, but if you're not passionate about your magic's not going to be particularly effective. You have to really care.
Yeah.
And if you're really upset about whatever's going wrong,
You can,
like whether you're angry about it or just like, because if I'm unemployed, I can be angry that I'm unemployed.
Yeah.
Right, and
And I
that's a
can
good-
use that.
That's a
a
good
good
thing,
thing.
right?
That's-
Because that's
that's-
motivation.
That's
like
right.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
what's going to drive you to change, to grow, to put energy into what you're doing.
it's
People
the eye of the tiger.
don't be mad
if it's used right.
Yeah.
Are we going to sing the song?
With the tiger and the will they fight on. That's all I know. So
Yeah.
That's more than I know. I liked what you said earlier though about encouraging people to be really bluntly honest with themselves, because when I was thinking about the question, I don't entirely remember what the question was anymore.
Spiritual bypass
There we go.
solutions.
There we go. I had the typical elementary school teacher answer. That's where I'm coming from. So I'm going to give you the answer I would give to small children. But I think honestly, adults need to hear it more than children do. But being in relationship with yourself, like be your own friend, be your own partner, whatever, be in relationship with yourself and think about if my friend who I really cared about was struggling with insert issue here, would I just tell them, oh no, it's not a problem, don't worry about it? No. But would I also say oh yeah, that's terrible, the world has done you wrong, oh yeah, that's bad, girl, and then not do anything else, just dwell in the misery or the anger or whatever? No, you would try to coach your friend in such a way that you understand their issue, empathize with them, let them feel heard, let them feel seen, and then maybe brainstorm solutions together. How can we move past this issue? So then do that to yourself. Treat yourself the way you would treat someone that you care about, because it's okay to care about yourself. You should be your own best friend.
Yeah.
Yep.
great.
That's a great answer. I like that.
Yeah.
It's my Sesame Street answer.
I think a lot of times, not only is that one of the hardest things, that's with being honest. That's one of the hardest
Yeah, it
things.
is hard.
I think especially in where we're at, probably in the Western culture right now, this is a hard thing to be friends with yourself.
Yeah.
Because every message is basically hate yourself in some
regard.
Right.
regard. It's basically
Even self-improvement.
it's basically
Hate
you
yourself
are
and buy
terrible,
this.
so,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
And don't forget, you got to buy this.
Yes, hate
Yeah.
yourself and then pay me money so I can trick you into liking yourself a little better.
And then when you still don't like yourself, I have a second product
Right.
that you can
Oh.
like yourself more.
Yeah.
But I think
Subscription
so. I mean, I think that's so
That's tough.
impossibly hard,
Yeah.
and that requires I don't want to say brutal self-honesty, but it does, because you're right, people wouldn't be friends with themselves naturally, and maybe even friends nowadays might let the friends sit in the mud. So that's even some friends are that way.
Yeah.
So it really
Yeah.
takes even a more honest friendship approach. What is actually friends? It's not just
Well, what is
hanging out
friends
with the
versus
pro-
what is acquaintances?
Yeah. What
Right,
is acquaintances?
right. Don't be an acquaintance of your own self. Be a real friend.
A real friend, if you are really doing something dangerous, might grab you, put you in the car, say, shut up, we're going to take a long drive, we're going to detox you, whatever, or whatever, you're getting off whatever you're on, because we're going to cabin, there ain't nothing, and you ain't leaving. That's hardcore, but that's a real friend. That's the kind of stuff that you might do, that when you're talking to yourself, you might have to, or when you're talking to yourself as a friend, you might have to say, in other ways it might be supportive, but it's in both cases, it's going to be really hard to like yourself unless you're honest about, what part is me and what part is maybe not me.
It's really hard to develop that ability to see yourself from the outside, looking in. Because if you can do that, then it makes all of that kind of shadow work, all of that honesty so much easier if you'll just step aside for a moment.
But I mean,
And
isn't that
see
why we
yourself.
invoke spirits, so they can tell us give us that outside perspective, right?
Sometimes.
Humans have been working on this for literally thousands of years. I mean, like the temple of Apollo with the oracle at Delphi
Know
had
yourself.
engraved on it, know yourself. So
Know thyself.
we've
Yes.
been told this for literally generations, but every time, like every person is experiencing this lesson anew, right? You have to know yourself. And that doesn't just mean like, what's my favorite color? That means like, what are the issues I'm struggling with? What are my subconscious problems? How am I getting in my own way?
Yeah.
And how can I very gently and lovingly smack myself out of my own way? But you need the love and the smack together.
It's called tough love. It's
Yeah.
called tough love.
That's on the back of the head.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think I find spiritual bypassing so interesting is because the history of meditation has been so just odd now. It has an
Well,
odd
it's been
time now.
trivialized.
Right,
in
like
many ways.
Google has meditation classes so you're more productive. But that isn't
point
helping
of it.
people realize they're actually working too many hours. That's just helping them literally bypass all that
Yeah.
or bypass all the issues they have in their life
Yeah, it's
so they can be
taking-
more predictive, right?
If the
Yeah.
goal of your
Productive.
meditation is to become more successful at capitalism,
Yeah,
then your
probably.
meditation
Yeah,
is
I
wrong.
guess it's-
Then you're doing it wrong.
I mean, unless you're really doing wealth magic
Magic
and you're trying to get
hardcore.
over like
Okay,
money
yeah,
issues,
yeah.
then okay, maybe.
But I
but
meant more in the sense of like, I must work more hours so my employer can gain more from my wage labor.
Yeah,
Like, if that's the goal of your meditation, you're doing it wrong.
If you're doing it so you can pay your rent at the end of the month,
That's okay.
more power to you.
Yes.
And
yes.
my support's
Yes.
there for you.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah. I mean, it really bugs me how employers are constantly trying to get us to do the Myers-Briggs thing or meditation and mindfulness so that they can paper over the cracks of the fact that, that bosses are assholes, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, it keeps their employees calm because they've learned to let it go. Any stress, just let it go.
Yeah, let's not
no,
teach the
no,
boss
on to-
emotional intelligence or how to be a better boss. Let's teach the employee how to let it go. Just let it go, right?
yeah, that would be better.
And not even have more awareness of it either. Just
Yeah.
let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So we are wrapping up on the time. So last words from, let's just give everyone power tips on like what can they do today to make their lives better, from just whatever your practice is, just as a tip for listeners.
I have one I want to share.
Go ahead.
And keeping in mind that I'm coming from the perspective of witchcraft as a religion, so keep that in mind when you're looking at different traditions. But I humbly feel that when you're walking this path, it's important to have one foot firmly planted in the spirit world and one foot firmly planted in the earth plane, because we are walkers between the world. We are seers, we are psychics, we are spiritual beings, but we're also living in this earth. And I think that if we can strive for that balance, or even take our time to find a really good mentor who can help us to build that foundation, we can avoid some of the pitfalls, such as going too far into spirit, and then you meet those people that are the infallible psychic who has no foundation, who isn't necessarily right, but thinks every message they get is right. To those that are too stuck in the earth plane, and there's no magic anymore. So I would suggest that as a balance to go for. Thank you.
When I was writing
Yeah.
some notes, like to prepare myself for this, because I came with a little piece of paper. But one of the things I wrote was to have one foot in each, like the card Temperance.
Oh my goodness!
There you go.
Oh, and now I have a new respect for the temperance card to think of it like that. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's always been a challenging card for me.
Oh, I love that.
To just to wrap my head around the
Yeah.
meaning. Yeah, love it.
We've talked a lot about anger today.
Yes.
So, which again, we already covered, can be good, can be useful, can be healthy, not bad. But I'm gonna say for my tip for people, it is possible to train your brain to look for things. And when you tell yourself, like, I'm going to notice insert thing here, you're going to see it more often, even if there aren't necessarily more of it in the world. Like if you tell yourself, I'm going to count all the red cars on the road, at the end of the day, you're going to be like, wow, everybody drives a red car. There aren't more red cars than anything else. It's just that you've told your brain, notice this, pay attention to this. So now you're going to see it all the time. You can do that with happiness. Every single day, I tell myself, I find at least one thing that makes me say, what a great day to be alive. this happened to me. I'm so great. And honestly, I say it out loud. I say, what a great day to be alive. Sometimes I even followed up with, I'm so glad I didn't die in my sleep. If I'm feeling extra ridiculous. So you can train your brain to seek out joy, happiness, spiritual connection, whatever it is that you want to train yourself to look for. You can do that. Wake up in the morning and think, there's going to be something today. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know when it's going to happen, but at some point, something's going to happen to me today that's going to make me say, I'm so glad I'm alive on this day.
I love it. That's great.
That's great.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so I think my tip would be, in terms of just feel compassion for yourself, and you can feel compassion for others. And just feel everybody has the possibility to be psychic. It's not like, when I started out in the craft, I wasn't particularly psychic. I've had to work at it to develop those skills, but that proves that it can be done. It's not just, you don't just walk into this thing with like, oh yes, I'm so psychic. It happens as a process of development.
There is a process.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on the other side of that coin, obviously, we've all met those people who think they're the reincarnation of Aleister Crowley.
You mean all the people who cross hurricanes just sitting in their living room, stuff like that?
Yeah, like that's a pitfall of the spiritual path too. So don't fall into that one, people. And just, I love that about finding your joy every day. I think that's really important. And fall in love with yourself and the world.
Yeah.
Right.
I think I would just suggest that while you're being honest with yourself, and so important, be honest with yourself every day, but also be kind to yourself at the same time.
Yes.
And acknowledge that, it's a hard path that we all walk, and we're all going to do a little bit better today than we did yesterday.
Love it.
All right, Andrea, finishing words.
I think the best thing you can do is just remember all the feedback you get from the universe, the world, is just information. If you can approach it that it's just information, it's not good or bad. If something happens you don't like, you go like, oopsie. And that was just kind of oopsie. It's just bad feedback or bad information comes back to you. If you can approach that, it's a lot easier to not deny the obstacles and be self-compassionate. It's just a game. And I mean, literally like a play or a theater that we're all living. It's much easier to say, well, it's not me per se. This set of experiments didn't quite work out, or this set of experiments did really work out. And it's just much easier to take it one step at a time than build one experiment from the next and kind of say, okay, I'm building the life I actually want now. And I think if you could do that single thing, you'll feel the self-hate lesson.
Yeah.
It's not your fault things necessarily.
Yeah.
It's just information, and it might be your fault, but it's just information. It's just feedback, right? It's just, I did this happened. Okay, my game is not quite adapted right yet.
So, I'd like to thank all the panelists today. Thank you all the listeners that are live streaming in the morning. You could be eating breakfast and looking at us with a bowl of cereal. So,
Seriously, thank you.
Thank you
For our followers.
So, with that, if you're live watching, even on the recording, check out our website, Queen City Curio, and Deeper Down the Rabbit Hole, where we have a bunch of podcasts and we have a lot of items. If you're in Hamilton or in the GTA and like to drive on down, you can pop into Hamilton Pagan Pride to see us all do workshops today. We're just getting started. And with that, next week on the podcast will be Martin McGregor, where we will be talking about theistic Satanism. So that's going to be a fun show.
It's far more reasonable than anyone would suspect.
I know, right?
It usually is. Yeah.
I've met some really nice Satanists.
So, as usual, stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll see you next week.